Hey, welcome back to the Crabby Dice. Today we're looking at my favorite role selection game, Mission Red Planet, and this is the second edition. So, this is going to be the rules and setup video. Click on the link below for my thoughts and the playthrough. Before we get started, always three things. Please like, subscribe, and comment on my videos. That would be great. Let's get started. Alright, for the setup, it's pretty easy. You're going to lay out your game board. You're going to take your resource tokens, and you're going to add one randomly to each region of the game board. So let's do that right now. You're gonna have two left over. Put out Phobos and the Space Memorial close by to the game board. You're gonna put one of them on Phobos, and the last one you're gonna toss from the game and put into the box, but don't look at it. Okay, you're gonna put your point chits on the side of the board with your Ice Monopoly card next to it because it'll be scored at the end of the game. Next, we're gonna create our launch pad here. You're going to use as many launch pads as there are a number of players. Alright, so here I'm simulating a 3-player game. You're going to have your ship cards and your travel tokens next to it. What you're going to do is fill up the launch pad right away. Then you're going to take one astronaut from each player, and in turn order you're going to put them on the ships. So purple's going to go first, blue's going to go second, and yellow's going to go third. Now for our player area, pretty simple. Just give everyone all their astronauts and their deck of 9 cards. Okay, we're gonna have a deck of mission cards. What you're gonna do is you're gonna give 2 to every player. They're gonna choose one of them to start the game, and the other one's gonna go back into the deck. After that, with the cards that are left, the mission cards that are left, you're gonna shuffle them in together with the action cards and the discovery cards, and that'll create your new draw deck. And then you're ready to start. Alright, welcome to the rules overview for Mission Red Planet. This is a pretty simple game, but it has 2 unique mechanisms put together. So there's role selection, so everyone's gonna have a exact same set of 9 character cards in their hand, and every single round you'll be picking one. And there's also area majority, so most of these cards will affect our area majority on the game board, and that's important because that's how we score a lot of points. Okay, so every single round of the game sort of flows exactly the same way. But before we talk about how a round flows, I'm going to talk about the length of the game first. So the first player is indicated by whoever has this nice player board thing here, and every single round we're just gonna move up this marker, and then when we hit the 10th round it's gonna trigger the end of the game, because then we're gonna do some scoring at the end here. So each of these markers stand for something different. I'll talk about that during the following section of the video, but there's some scoring stuff that happens in between. Okay, so now let's look at a example round and what's gonna happen. So at the start of a round, or the first thing you're going to do every round, is everyone's going to pick a character card. Alright, but you don't play it in turn order. Everyone's going to play face down. When everyone's ready, everyone's going to reveal the card, and all these characters are going to get activated in numerical order, but starting from 9, working your way to the 1. Right, so you're saying 9, 8, 7, sort of like a launch pad taking off or a ship taking off. Right, so when you get to your number, you're going to read the text, you're going to do the effect. Okay, most of the effects just add astronauts to ships, and when ships get full they get launched and they're going to add astronauts to the board, and so on and so on. Other abilities, move your guys on the board, destroy ships, launch ships, change the destination of ships, so on and so on and so on. Okay, what's important to note that is that the card that you played that turn, you don't get it back in your hand. It's going to go to your discard pile. Alright, so as the game goes, you're going to have less and less options in your hand until you've played the number 9 card. And this card's pretty special. It lets you pick up your discard pile back to your hand, and it refreshes all your options again. Okay, so let's go back to that turn structure. I got sidetracked there. So everyone's going to play a card. You're all going to reveal in turn order. You're all going to read the text, so on and so on and so on. Okay, as you're playing your cards, we're going to be adding astronauts to the ships, and what's important to note on the ships is there's a max capacity, right? So the number below the name is the amount of astronauts that is needed to be on the ship so that it takes off. Okay, so for example here, let's say I added 2 astronauts, I added them there, then blue would have added 2 astronauts here, then yellow would have added an astronaut here. So at any point, if a ship is full, it's actually going to take off, and you show that by just lifting the ship up. So Most of the cards only affect docked ships. When a ship is raised, it means it's not docked anymore, it's actually being launched. Okay, so you won't be able to change its destination or do a bunch of weird things. Alright, this one has 4, for example, it's going to take off. Okay, we're all going to play our cards, and that's it for that phase. Okay, next, when you're all done, you're actually going to put the astronauts where they belong on the board. Alright, if the resource token on that location is not flipped over yet, you're going to flip it over. So for example, here, these 2 astronauts are going to go on Phobos. So we're going to flip over Phobos, and we're going to add these 2 astronauts to Phobos. This one's going to Borealis. We're going to find it on the board. This one here, we're going to flip over the token. We're going to add these tokens here. All right, after that, you can discard these cards and put them back in the game box. You won't see them again, and you're just going to refill. So next round, there'll be more ships to add astronauts to. Okay. After that, you just have to figure out who the next first player is, and it's going to be the person who activated last at that round. So whoever played the lowest possible number in the previous round is going to be first player. You're going to hand him this board. He's going to change the turn, and you're going to just restart a new round. Okay, and that's it. You're going to do that 10 times, and there are some rounds where we're actually going to stop. I'm going to talk about that right now. Alright, let's talk about the production phase. So the production phase are when we hit these dots. Alright, and this phase is pretty simple. What's going to happen is you're going to check the majority on every region on Mars and on the moon, and you're going to give players the amount of chits depicted on this board. So for example, the first time there's a production phase, you only get 1 point chit. So in this example, it wouldn't be a realistic example, there'll be more people on the board, but let's just say this is an example. Purple here is going to get 1 of these ore chits from the supply because we're on the first one. So he'll get 1 of these, for example. And then blue is also going to get 1 because they have the majority here, even though pink has a guy here. So we're going to give 1 of them to blue. Now, when we hit the second one, pretty self-evident, you're going to get 2. So in this example here, blue's going to get 2, and pink's going to get 2 as well. And then when we hit this one over here, again, it's 3 and 3. On a tie, so for example, if there's a tie and you can't split the tie, so I'm going to show you with an example. Let's say it was the first one here and we have a tie. Because you can't split 1 chit between 2 players, that chit's going to remain in that region for the following production phase. Now, when we get to the second production phase, there's still a tie. But this time you can actually separate all the chits in that region between 2 players, so you're each going to get 2 chits each, or 1 chit each. Alright, and then when we hit the third one, we're going to add 3 chits. And now you could divide the 4 by 2 players, so you'll get 2 chits each. That's how you deal with ties. Okay. Now let's talk about the other 2 icons that you'll get on this board besides the turn tracker here. This is the discovery phase. So what's going to happen is during the game, let me find an example. People can put discovery cards on the edges of the board, and those affect the regions that they're connected to. During this phase, you're going to flip over the card and just read what it says. So for example, this one adds an extra 2 tokens to this region. So for example, here you'd get an extra 2 ice if you have the most astronauts in this region. All right. So that's why this would happen before the production. So this one would add 2 tokens here, and then you would produce so an extra 3. So in total you get 5 ice. And then we're going to score. Scoring is pretty simple. There's just 2 things you need to do. You're each going to have your mission card. This is going to score. If you picked up another mission card during the game from the deck, you're going to score that as well. And lastly, you're going to see who has the most ice, and you're going to give them this card. So ice is ice tokens. So if somebody has 10 tokens, somebody else has 8 tokens, you're going to give this to the person with the 10 tokens. And this is an extra 9 points. Then you'll add up all your points together, including the chits that you collected, and figure out the winner. Alright. Now let's talk about all the roll cards, just in case you had questions on them, and I'll show you how each of them works. Alright, let's go through all these rolls one at a time, and just clarify some things in case there was any questions. So the pilot lets you put 2 astronauts on 1 or 2 ships, so you can place them both on one ship or split them up. All right. And the other thing it lets you do, because it's a pilot, he lets you take one of these destination markers and replace any of the locations that the ships are going to. So for example, let's say I don't want this ship to go to Phobos, I can change it to whatever I like. Okay, so that's how the pilot works. Soldier lets you put exactly 1 astronaut on any ship, and it lets you kill an astronaut that's either on Phobos or in any of the outer regions on the game map. It also allows you to move 3 guys from Phobos to any region on the map. You can even split them up. Okay, so you can put all 3 on one region or put them on 3 different regions. The travel agent's pretty interesting. You have to place 3 astronauts on exactly 1 ship. All right. If there's no ship that can take 3 astronauts, you actually lose a turn because she doesn't do anything else. Okay, so it's a sort of a Hail Mary play because you sort of need there to be space on a ship. Okay. Femme Fatale, she lets you place a token on a ship, and she lets you convert an opponent's astronaut into your colored astronaut. So either on a ship that you're already present or on a region where you have presence. Okay, so you need to have presence here. So for example, I can take out a blue and replace it with one of my purple. All right, you can't pick a region or a ship where you don't have presence. Next is a Saboteur. Pretty simple. You add 1 token to one of the ships, and then you can just explode any ship that you want. Let's say there were 3 astronauts here. Right before it was about to take off, you make it explode. Now it's very important, before I go on, all the cards deal with only docked ships. As soon as a ship is full and it's lifted, nothing can affect it. All right, it's taken off, you can't explode it at that point. I should have mentioned that earlier in the video. The Secret Agent does the complete opposite. It lets you put out 2 tokens on either 1 or 2 ships, so you can put 2 on the same one or 1 on 2 different ones. And it allows you to make a ship take off. So just, even though it's not full, let's say this one had only 3, you can make it take off. Alright, the Scientist. Again, you can put 1 or 2 astronauts on the board on either 1 or 2 ships. So I can put 1 here and 1 here. So take off. After that, you get to draw a card from the Action Discovery / Mission deck. Alright, this deck. Alright, there's 3 different cards that you'll encounter in this deck. I'll just talk about that right now. Okay. There's essentially action cards, and the action icon on the right is going to tell you when you can play this card. It could be during your turn, it could be during a resource phase, it could be during end game scoring, whenever. Alright, those are action cards. The other type of cards are discovery cards. Now, discovery cards all work the exact same way. You need to attach them to an outer region on Mars. For example, I say I'm going to attach this discovery card to this region. During the discovery phase, which is almost during end game scoring, you're going to flip this over and this will affect the game in some way. Okay, so there's sort of like secret events that only you know about because you put the card there. Now, what you can also do with the Scientist is, instead of drawing a card and playing that event or playing that card, you could look at a discovery card that somebody had already played around the game board. Alright, so keep that in mind. Alright, after that you have the Explorer that lets you put out 1 lonely astronaut on a ship, but it allows you to do 3 moves on the game board, and you can sort of split them up however you like. You can do multiple regions. You can take 3 guys 1 space. You can do 1 guy 3 spaces, 1 guy 2 spaces, another guy 1 space. Split them up on multiple regions. It doesn't all have to come from one region, and so on and so on. The only thing you can't do is move a guy from Phobos back onto the game board. Okay. And lastly, there's the Recruiter. Again, allows you to put 1 lonely astronaut on a ship, but it allows you to pick up the rest of your cards that are in your discard so that you have a fresh set of cards to pick from in the following round. And that's how each of the rules work. Alright, those were all the rules. I'm just going to add some things here that didn't belong in any of the other parts of the video. If any astronaut dies, whether it was through an exploded ship or a soldier killed them on the board, they go to the Lost Memorial over here. And that makes a difference because there could be cards or something that affect that. You can score points or so on and so on over there. The second thing that I'm going to talk about is the tie for the ice card here. On a tie, you guys share the points, so you divide it by 2, round it down, or divide by 3 if there's 3 players, or if you're 4, which is very rare, divide it by 4, round it down. Okay? Next, on a tie, when you're counting down, you're going to go in turn order. So for example, if multiple people played the 1 card, which is the last card played, you'll follow turn order around the table according to whoever has this board, which was the first player. All right, and that's also going to dictate the first player next turn. So if multiple people played the number 1, the first player would play his 1 first, the second player would play his 1 second, and then he will get this because he played his card later in turn order. Okay, and lastly, I just want to stress the point on what's going on with the ships here. There is a max capacity, and as soon as that capacity is hit, the ship is taking off, and all the cards deal with docked ships, which means they can't be lifted. So for example, here there's 3 here, 3 here, and 3 and 2 here, so none of them have taken off yet. So if I play a scientist, for example, let's me put 2 astronauts out. As soon as I would pick my 2 astronauts, place them there, the ships would take off right away. Okay, so if the next player wanted to do a sabotage or something like that, they couldn't affect these 2 ships, or a femme fatale wouldn't be able to affect these 2 ships. And there you go, those are all the rules. So click on the link below to see the playthrough and my thoughts. If not, we'll see you in the next one. Later.